I understand that this is not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but guess what? There are a lot of us who would like to have a new phone and they're interested in the S21, and now they have the S21 FE option, and the S22 is right around the corner as well. So I think it would be very interesting to talk about these three phones and see how they compare against each other. You know, most people just talk about these high-end flagships like the S22 Ultra and forget that there are a lot of people who actually don't need those phones. So let's talk about these three phones and see how they compare against each other. Okay, right off the bat, I'll have to tell you, since I've included the S21 FE in the comparison, it's not an easy task because technically you should compare it with the S20 FE. But at the moment, if you look at the specs, they closely resemble each other. And that's why it can be very confusing for many people. You know, which one should I choose? Should I just wait for the S22 and see how that's going to be? Or should I just buy an S21 FE, which is the latest one? Or should I just buy an S21, which might be even on sale in some countries? Okay, so let's start with the S21. It's a great little one-year-old phone that can deliver so much. It's got a great battery life, can take good pictures, it's got 25 watt fast charging, and if I may bring the S21 FE into the picture right now, kind of compare it with the S21, even though this is not an apples to apples comparison. So when you're comparing these two, you should know that there are only two major differences here: the selfie camera and the battery size. But here's the thing, when you look at the selfie camera, you say, okay, on the paper, you see, okay, this one has got a 32 megapixel camera versus the S21, which has got a 10 megapixel camera. So that means it's got a better camera, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. There's so much that goes into a phone taking really great pictures or selfie pictures or videos, right? The software optimization, there are many things. The resolution is only one thing. But let's say it is a good camera, okay? Let's say the S21 FE takes better selfie. Okay, so what about the battery size? We're comparing the 4500 mAh battery of the S21 FE against the 4000 mAh battery of the S21. What about the S22 then? It hasn't been released yet. We already know quite a lot about the S22 based on the information that have been released for quite some time now. So take everything I say about the S22 with a grain of salt, even though a lot of them have been confirmed. The S22 has probably got the smallest display of all these three phones, which isn't a big deal, right? What is a big deal, however, is the fact that, or based on what we know, is that the S22 is going to have a smaller battery size of 3700 mAh, which is just a sheer disappointment. So basically you're downgrading from a 4000 mAh battery of the S21 to the 3700 mAh battery size of the S22. Why? I don't know. So you should be already getting some answers as to what is really the best option for you. Can you just wait a little longer to confirm that these are really the specs of the S22, or with the S21 still being widely available and maybe even on sale in some countries, should you just go for that one? Or maybe you should just go for the latest, which is the S21 FE, and just forget about everything else, especially if you take a lot of selfies or if the battery life is really important to you. As for the S22, if you're considering that, again, you need to take into account two big things. One is that you're going to get a better camera. Not the selfie camera, but the wide angle camera. And that's going to be a 50 megapixel camera over the 12 megapixel camera of S21 FE and the S21. So that's a major improvement, right? Perhaps. And the second one is that you're going to get a 12GB RAM option, only if you buy the 256GB storage model. And that's something that you didn't have in the S21 or an S21 FE. If it was me and I wanted to go with the S22, I would probably go with 256GB of storage and 8GB of RAM, not the 12GB of RAM. Because I don't believe that the 12GB RAM is going to give you any more benefits in this class, and there's plenty that the 8GB RAM model can do actually. By the way, if you like this kind of content, subscribe and like the video, and make sure to comment and let people know how would you come up with your mind if you were to choose between these three phones. Some people could actually benefit by reading these comments. Of course, there are still the smaller stuff that you could go through, nitpicking these little things that are probably different in each model. But if you ask me, the big picture is more important. And software-wise, you don't need to worry about the S21 having the older Android version, because you're gonna get the updates to the Android 12 with the One UI 4. And here's something that I probably should have mentioned right in the beginning, and that is the pricing of these three phones. Based on what we know, the S22 is probably going to be released with $100 or euros more expensive than the S21. But this is not confirmed, and the thing with the pricing is that it can change even in the last minute before the release of the new product. So let's really not talk about that. We just know that it's probably going to be more expensive than the S21 and S21 FE. So let's take that into account as well. If you wait for the S22, you might lose the option to have the S21 at all, with the global shortage and everything.